Welcome to Ardbeg Day 2023, or as it's known this year, Planet Ardbeg Day. Now, if you're wondering about the get-up, I'm dressed for the occasion as we prepare to unravel the mysteries that lie within this year's bottling. But I can assure you, there's nothing elementary about it.
Yes, welcome to one and all. My role today is Quantum Distiller. If you're familiar with the Planet Ardbeg Days anthology, she journeys across time and space, gathering unique ingredients and inspiration to concoct the ultimate dram.
Now, over the years, we've welcomed you to this occasion in all sorts of different guises. We've bottled some truly spectacular whiskies too, from rum cask to alligator char cask to black malted barley. We've done our fair share of experimenting.
We have indeed. But this year, it's not so much about what we've added, but rather what we've taken away. For the first time in our storied history, this year's Ardbeg Day bottling has been distilled without the purifier. With its absence, the spirit's heavier notes and flavours have risen. So I'm pleased to introduce Ardbeg Heavy Vapours.
Now, to celebrate this perplexing whiskey, we've released a graphic novella that follows the story of Agent 46, also known as Jackie Thompson, Ardbeg's committee chair, a plucky interplanetary detective tasked with locating the elusive purifier.
You can read the novella on ardbeg.com, but today we're not here for bookworming.
Absolutely not.
We're here for dram drinking. Today, we gather for a taste experience that's positively dripping with intrigue.
Now, with sharp minds and senses, honed by countless whiskey investigations, we will guide your palates on a journey into the all-absorbing and mysterious dimensions of Ardbeg Heavy Vapours. But before we do, we need to balance and calibrate our palates. As always, Ardbeg 10-year-old will be our control. We expect you'll be taking notes, but here we go, let's taste the whiskies. So Gillian, 10-year-old, our flagship expression. I can clearly remember when we relaunched this way back in 2000, because that was when we were able to bottle the 1990 stock. And we stuck to the traditional recipe of using high-quality American Oak-X bourbon barrels. And you can see that in the lovely deep gold colour here. And you know, indeed, I always find it astonishing when we nose it. It's so surprising.
Yeah.
Because you expect to be slapped across the face, but actually, it's a bit of complexity.
It is. There's a lot of complexity in there, and a lot of fruit in there. You get the hallmark, you get the lime, the zesty lime, the fennel.
The lime, the fennel, almost ripe bananas in there, and it's really quite unexpected for such a heavily peated whiskey.
Exactly, indeed.
And I love the fact you also get that lovely biscuity malted barley base.
Yeah.
But there's more to be discovered. So let's open it up. Let's just add a splash of water.
Thank you very much.
Not too much. We all know this is bottled at 46% alcohol by volume, but the water just, I don't know, I think it brings even more of these fresh herbal notes to the fore.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a little bit more peat there you can pick up as well. Now you've added a touch of water.
Touch of tarry rope or bonfire embers. But it's that, you know, it's that complexity which the purifier obviously gives to Ardbeg whiskies.
Yeah, it's that peaty paradox, that balance.
Will we try a taste?
Yes, we got to.
Beautiful viscosity, mouth coating, because of course it's non-chill filtered, as almost all Ardbegs have been over the year. And I always like to say to people, you don't just drink an Ardbeg, you're actually chewing and eating it as well. What flavours do you find?
Well, I think on the palate you get a pepper prickle. There's always that. There's elements of small bit of spice, but you also get a lot of sweetness as well on the tip of your tongue, which again I think also surprises a lot of people when they try Ardbeg. They're expecting to be whooshed, and they do get that once you've swallowed it and breathing in afterwards. You definitely get all of those peaty flavours rolling over your tongue.
I love that pungent pepper prickle. That's not easy to say.
Indeed.
An intense sweetness, I always get that. I think back in the day I described it as an almost toffee and chocolate sweetness, right on the tip of your tongue for a few seconds, and then as you say, bang!
You get that whoosh.
All these waves of sea spray and tarry rope and Cuban cigars and bonfire embers and coffee grounds. You know, it really is a paradox, this whiskey, because it's one of the most heavily peated, one of the most intensely flavoured whiskies made in the whole of Scotland, but yet it has this balancing complexity. And of course, as all of our aficionados and committee members know, it is the purifier on the line arm of the spirit still which contributes to this and just gives a degree of balance to it.
Indeed it does. So don't drink too much though, because we need to keep some.
Really?
I know, tempting as it is, we do need to keep some to compare it to this year's Ardbeg Day bottling. That's
a good idea. I'm just going to have one tiny little sip. You know, I just love the fact as well that we often talk about the length or linger of the aftertaste. And of course, with Ardbeg 10-year-old, the aftertaste just goes on and on and on. And I love to joke with people to say, if you have a dram of Ardbeg before you go to bed, even if you brush your teeth, you'll taste it again first thing in the morning. It's that long, the aftertaste, and it's one of the unique features about it.
Yeah.
So, we talked about the purifier, Gillian, and you let our audience into the fact that many years ago we carried out this crazy experiment where we actually cut the purifier out of the line arm, which was no easy task, I can assure you, because we always wanted to see, really, you know, we have an idea of what the purifier does, and we've tried to describe it here, but the only way to truly prove that was, as I say, to remove the purifier. So do you remember that? Do you remember how Mickey, the distillery manager, started crying when we asked him to do it?
He was a little bit shocked and aghast, but fair dues to him.
Yeah. But we had to do it. As scientists each, we just really had to try it and see what was going to happen there. So now we're about to find the answer to that.
We are indeed. So, yeah, go for it.
Whiskey number 2. This is the main release of Ardbeg Rise of the Heavy Vapours, bottled at 46% ABV. The first thing, Gillian, I note that even with some water in it, the 10-year-old is still slightly darker. And of course, we know why that is.
We do. We'll get on to that in a moment. But first, let's have a nose and tell everybody what you think of it.
Oh, my goodness. This does not gently caress you.
No, it
this really grabs you and lets you know there's some serious business going on here. Now, I always believed that the purifier, which recycled the distilling vapours, actually removed some of the fusel oils, these long chain molecules in there. And I think even at full strength, you instantly get the fact that there's loads of them in there.
Exactly.
This oily, sappy, almost dusty, earthy thing going on. Subtle, this ain't.
Not. And the other thing is to point out that it's recognisable as Ardbeg, but it's very different from Ardbeg 10, which is, as part of the experiment, is what we were wanting to achieve and to prove. And with each experiment we ever do, we're always wanting to make a different type of flavour. So that's certainly been achieved in this. And I remember even nosing the new make when we did it originally as well, and instantly seeing a difference between the two new makes at that point as well.
And it's a good point that the Quantum distiller makes here, that, you know, the difference is even more marked as new make. So for that reason, we filled the spirit into refill bourbon barrels. We didn't have the creamy, sweet first fill we use in the 10-year-old, because we wanted to accentuate that point of difference and let it come through many, many years later into the final product. So ordinarily with water, we would get, as you described in the 10-year-old, the fennel and the lime notes. That's not what I'm getting here.
No. This has totally messed with the balance, the complexity, the integrated complex that there normally is in Ardbeg 10 just isn't there. It is a different beast, as it were. It's big and chunky, I would say, wouldn't you?
Very big and chunky, which of course is what we called the secret project Big and Chunky. Because normally we don't tell people we're doing these things. We just do them and see what happens many years later. But you know what? I get this kind of farmyard, almost barnyard type aroma in there now with the water.
Yeah.
And again, there's that kind of oily, almost linseed oil, strange thing going on this. This is an odd beast, this whiskey.
It is odd. Let's have a taste.
Wow. You know, if you were feeling a little bit low in energy, Gillian, certainly now you've got a bit of a zoom, a bit of a boost. And it's that lovely kind of peppermint, menthol, eucalyptus thing to start off with.
There's a lot of cardamom in there as well.
Exactly. Crushed cardamom pods, a little bit of dark chocolate in there. It's almost bittersweet. Now, I made reference to the bonfire embers, which are subtly in the background of the 10-year-old. They're right in the foreground here. My mouth is now full of bonfire embers with this. But wow, you know, this is big, sappy, rich, long lingering. You know, dare I say it, it's a bit of a beast, this whiskey, compared to the 10-year-old.
Oh yeah, it makes 10-year-old elegant, sophisticated.
Or as elegant as an Ardbeg will ever get, indeed. I guess.
Yeah, just going back to the 10 now, it's phenomenal. The difference just in the nose, you know, I almost
got smoked pineapple in the nose of the 10-year-old there, which I think is the first fill bourbon barrels doing that.
So yeah, it's a massive difference. And the refill cask as well, you know, there's not as much vanilla, that you can pick up more of the vanilla in the Ardbeg 10 as well.
You know, summarising it in a few words, with the 10-year-old, a smoked basket of tropical fruit with the heavy vapours, a farmer's cow field or something like that.
Delightful.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
But you know, I guess at the end of the day, not only have we produced, Gillian, a whiskey which we just know Ardbeg aficionados are going to love, but we've got the answer to our question. Yes. The purifier actually does what it says on the tin. It recycles the vapours, it adds that complexity and just balances out the intensity.
It does indeed, and it proves that the PT paradox
is true.
Yeah, indeed.
And you know, the good news is that after the 1 week of production with the purifier gone, we did actually lovingly reinstate the purifier onto the line arm, and it's been running with the PT paradox again ever since.
Well, on that note, just a couple of questions before we get into
questions. Wow.
Yeah, we've got some questions that have been sent in advance, but I've also got a couple of questions for you as well. So the purifier that you mentioned, the fact that we did reattach it after this experiment, how long has it been at Ardbeg? Do you know that?
We bought the distillery in 1997, and obviously we've spoken to some of the people that worked at the distillery under its previous owners. And, you know, it's always been there as far as we know. So we've got no evidence of a time when it wasn't there. So, you know, nearly all of the Ardbegs that have been bottled in recent living memory, I believe, have been tempered by the purifier. And of course, it's the only distillery on the island of Isla to have purifier.
Yeah, which really makes it stand out as well. Excellent. So we get on to the questions from the masses. You can feel free to drink your dram as you do this.
Thank you.
So we've got one here from Tobias in Munich, and he's asked a bit more on the maturation actually. So was the maturing of Heavy Vapours different, and did you play with the cask selection knowing that the spirit had a different flavour profile? Okay,
and you know, I think I know who Tobias is. I'm sure we've had questions from him before. So the simple answer is that, you know, because we had sort of one shot at this, we had a feeling that if we used Oloroso sherry cask like we use for Ugadal or virgin French oak for Corryvreckan, we may have lost a little bit of the difference. So that's why we decided to use only refill bourbon barrels for that. And, you know, anytime we do an experiment where we're playing around with primary production, that's what we tend to do.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
That's a good question, Tobias.
It is a good question. So we've got another one here from Hannes in Bulgaria. How do you see the future of whiskey going with so many new distilleries and so much innovation?
Okay, that's a more difficult question to answer. I think the fact that there are so many new distilleries is good news because it's a reflection of the very rude health our industry's in. I think into the future it's going to offer consumers an even greater choice of products. Our industry's in a current state where consumers are demanding something a little bit different. So it's good to see that happening.
Yeah, and they're all very welcome. We've got one here from Ian in Berlin. That's a bit of a longer one, this.
Right, okay.
The flavour of Ardbeg Heavy Vapours was influenced by removing the purifier from the distilling process. Do you envisage Ardbeg experimenting more with the still-driven expressions, such as producing further batches without the purifier and highlighting the heavier sort of compounds?
Right, okay, so that's a very good question, and there's two parts to my answer. Firstly, no, we are not intending to remove the purifier again for two reasons. Firstly, it was so blinking difficult to do. It was a real labour of love. And secondly, with these releases, we offer them to people on the basis that they are a limited one-off release. Yeah. But the good news, Ian, is that of course we will and we have been experimenting with other aspects of the distillation process. So more to come into the future.
Certainly, excellent. And then we've got one from Penny in Hong Kong here. What does Ardbeg mean to you?
Okay, again, two answers. Literally, the word Ardbeg means small headland, but I don't think that's what Penny was meaning here.
More to you, yourself.
So what Ardbeg means to me is that I think it's probably one of the most mysterious whiskies out there. And Penny, I clearly remember the very first time I tasted Ardbeg. It was at the Machrie Hotel way back in the mid-1990s. And it was a 1978 vintage Ardbeg. And I was fully prepared as Glenmorangie distillery manager, as I was at that time, to think, yeah, here we go. Another peaty whiskey, blah, blah, blah. But I was really shocked, and I choose my words very carefully, at how complex and almost elegant this whiskey was. And the fact that it wrapped up the intense peatiness in a beautiful bundle of elegance and complexity as well. So it's very mysterious, and I'm very happy to admit, Gillian, that you and I and Mickey and Colin, and even we don't understand completely what's going on there. So to me, it is just a real paradoxical whiskey.
Brilliant answer. And then we have one here from Anna in Edinburgh, and she's asked, can you give any hint of what's in store for next year's Ardbeg Day release?
Well, yes, we could do, but let's just say that it's going to be possibly more maturation driven. And, you know, we kind of alternate. We do experiments with primary production, such as fermutation, such as rise of the heavy vapours. And then we have ones which are altogether more cask driven, like alligator or so on. So that's kind of where we're heading. Yeah. You know, we never like to confirm or deny anything live on air.
Indeed, indeed. So we have one here from Steph in South Africa. And we love seeing the different themes every year for Ardbeg Day. Do you come up with the concept first and make the whiskey to fit it, or does the whiskey come first?
Now that's a really interesting question, that, you know, the concepts are often built on the ideas which we have before we come up with a whiskey. But, you know, sometimes it's a very obvious process-driven thing, like removing the purifier. That's clearly what we set out to do. But sometimes, you know, it'll be just a feeling, an aroma, flavor, a conversation. Yeah. So it's a little bit of both.
Exactly, I can agree
Convinced,
with that.
Gillian?
I am totally convinced. Very good answer there. Well done, Bill. And we have our final question here from Larry from the southwest of Norway, actually. What about the cut? I think he means the spirit cut at this point. Was it wider than usual for heavy vapours? And also the second part of his question is around caramel colouring in Ardbeg, and do we ever add it? Right,
okay. So the answer to the first part of the question was no, because, you know, this was a direct comparison to our classic Ardbeg 10-year-old. So the only two things we varied in there were firstly the removal of the purifier, and then the choice of cask to allow the point of difference to shine through. But we kept the spirit cut points the same. Now, Gillian, you know as well as I do, we have often played around with the cut points, and the more you cut it into the faints, then the more of these smoky elements to capture. So it's possible that maybe we'll have something on that theme in years to come. The second question is that our policy is never to add caramel colouring to Ardbeg.
Indeed, indeed. Well, that concludes the questions.
Some very good questions there. Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah. So we've ventured into smoky realms and explored a whisky born from the absence of the purifier, unearthing a bold and complex character that defies expectations. As we bid you adieu, I'd like to wish you a happy Ardbeg Day, and wherever you are on our planet, we hope you had enjoyed exploring a new one with us.
Sorry, I'm still lost in the bouquet of this incredible whisky. So can I just echo Gillian's word by thanking all of our Ardbeg committee and all Ardbeg lovers who've joined us today. So we say slange to you adventurers, and until we meet again, may your glasses be forever filled with the essence of Ardbeg. Slange.